we'd recently moved to Somerset, and when I say recently, I'm talking 2018. And we lived for 25 years in Scotland, in a very rural part of Scotland. So we were quite au fait with how these things operated and the pitfalls with them. And we saw this house, fell in love with it, and well, somebody fell in love with it, and there was a little bit of work to do, which wasn't a problem. But when we saw the sewage facilities that were here in 2018, we knew at some stage that they were going to need upgrading. So we bought the house with that in mind, that it was a job on the to-do list. So having lived with them, we knew what needed to be done. We were fortunate in Scotland because we knew lots of people. We'd been there a long time, and we knew somebody who knew somebody. So we never had any issues around finding tradesmen that would get work done for us. Obviously, being new to Somerset, we didn't know anybody. And it's a fairly chunky piece of work that we needed doing. And I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate that Jan used to run a restaurant and art gallery.
We had lots of issues with sewage treatment, so we knew we had to be careful, and that we had to choose carefully who did the work, because it can also go wrong. The one we had at the restaurant, obviously it was a business, and so money was an issue, because we had to do it as cheaply as we could, and it was the worst mistake to actually put something that was cheap that didn't do the job it was supposed to do, with sort of no backup and no recommendation.
The last thing you want is, when you're running a business like that, is you're worrying about the quality of the food, the customers, customer service. You don't want to be worrying about the plant at the end that's going to back up and suddenly your toilets start overflowing. That's the last thing you want in a business. So we're very keen, technically, to get this thing right. So I suppose you could call us the customers from hell, where that we knew exactly what we wanted, but we were more, and we knew that if you're going to go for a quality product, then you're going to have to pay, which wasn't the issue. So it was really getting the right answer. So we went on the usual places. It was Google and Yale and all the rest of it, and all these names popped up. And I think I contacted 7 contractors at the time. And 2 of them never showed up. They just didn't show up. One wanted 150 quid to turn up. And so I think we were down to 3 or 4, and amongst them was West Country Drainage, who turned up, and went through what we wanted. As I said, we were specific and knew what we wanted, but I was a bit naughty really, because I played dumb, that I didn't know anything. So it was really asking the questions, how does this work? What does that do? What does that do? And out of the 3 or 4 we had left, 2 of them, what they actually suggested to put in, didn't actually comply with the regulations. Now, I knew that, but I didn't let on that I knew that. So immediately they were off the radar, which came down to 2 or 3 that we had left, that we decided to go forward on. But what struck me about West Country Drainage was the openness and the honesty in which they approached the job and the quote. It's fair to say they weren't the cheapest. They weren't the most expensive, but in terms of how they were going to execute the job and the equipment that they were going to put in, explain how they were going to do the job, suited it. I think we were comfortable with it. I think that's the best way to describe it. Part of the openness that we really appreciated was the fact that at the time we put in, this is 2000 and...
About probably 19.
Yeah, 219, 220, somewhere around there. It was during the summer. And West Country Drainage, well, Jodie and Leanne were very honest and upfront and said that they'd not been in the business long, but which didn't really faze us at all. because of the openness and the way they'd answered the questions and what they were putting forward and the price. They turned up on time. They said they turned up when they said they were going to turn up. They were here all week when they did it. And obviously, and from our experience in Scotland, there are always things that when you go underground, there are things that turn up unexpectedly. And there was a few things with this installation that turned up. For instance, Jodie found a manhole under the lawn, which was totally unexpected. And during the installation, Jodie suggested that they raise it and bring it up above the lawn so that you can actually access it later on. And I was expecting oh yes, that will cost you extra, of course. But no, yes, we got charged, but we got charged for the materials only. And it was all included within the price that we'd agreed. I'll admit most of the time during the week that we were here, but you were mainly here, weren't you?
I was here a lot of the time whilst the work was being done, or more of the time. And as long as I kept the guys fed with tea and coffee and plenty of biscuits or cake, they were more than happy, and they were polite, courteous, and worked really, really hard, very skillful and worked hard.
With the install, I built a man cave at the end of the garden. So I wanted the tank put in a particular position underground, and it had to be at a certain level. It had to be 25 mil below the level of my man cave. And I distinctly remember that one day Jodie came in and said he wasn't happy, and something's gone wrong. What's this about? So he trundled back the next day, and he came out and he took the tank out of the ground and spent half a day taking the tank out, re-leveling it and put it back in a better position. And he stood at the door and said, "I'm happy now, I'm going home." But even taking the tank out and completing it, they still completed it within the time frame and within the agreed price. So yeah, and the workmanship, and having seen a lot, I've been on a lot of building sites, and the way the guys cleared up afterwards, the whole was a work of art. It was absolutely a work of art. Beautiful vertical sides. It was great. It was good to watch. Actually, I quite enjoyed it, even though I was paying the bill. One of the reasons that we went with West Country Drainage was the actual tank that was put in. It complied with all the requirements. In fact, exceeded them to the point where we were maintaining a bit of a green environment look at it. But as with all of them, that you put a piece of expensive kit in, if you don't look after it, it ain't gonna work. So we regularly now get a call to say, we've booked you in for your service. So it's regularly maintained. I don't have to remember it and put it in my diary. The maintenance is done annually. We are very careful about what we put down the system. We're careful about not putting bleaches or anything that would actually damage the system. Also, Jodie suggested putting in an external beacon, because it's at the end of the garden and it's got an alarm on it, but if it failed, we can't hear the alarm when we're in the house. So we put in a beacon, a flashing beacon, so if it did go wrong, then we could actually see it from the house. And touch wood, we hadn't actually seen that thing flashing. So paying the maintenance, it's the same with the car. You maintain your car, look after the car, it'll be fine. And it's been the same with that system down there. As I say, touch wood, it's been good. You've got to weigh up and evaluate your options. Cost is one thing, but don't go for the cheapest. We had terrible trouble with our plant in Scotland, with the plant that was in Jan's restaurant. And that came down to, it was just a cheap install and badly installed. So there's that question of cost, time and quality. Also, you've got to look at that as a long-term investment. And it's not buy cheap, because you'll end up fitting it twice and you'll end up with problems. Simplistically, I wanted a plant, no disrespect to West Country Drainage, I don't want to see them again. I want it fitted, I want it working and doing exactly what it says on the tin. Yes, it's nice to come down and you know and see Jodie and Leanne, to when they come and see that, when they come and service the tank. But other than that, I just don't want to see them. The other thing I would say is, would I recommend them? Well, the simple answer is we're already doing that. We've had neighbours that have asked us questions about our tank, and in fact one of the neighbours down the road, they were flooded out. It totally damaged their system and they had the system replaced. I passed on the business card, and I understand, well, I do know that West Country Drainage installed that, and I believe they got a good glowing report from them as well. So I've got no hesitation in recommending them, which is one of the reasons that and it's a bit, if you have a good experience, you tell on average 2 or 3 people. But if you have a bad experience, suddenly it's all over Facebook and you're telling everybody and their mother, between 13 and 20 people, of the bad experience you had. So it's only bad news that travels fast. Good news doesn't travel that fast or as well as it should do. And so we are very pleased and happy with the bill we got, and it does exactly what it says on the tin.
The system that we've had put in here has not given us a moment's problem since we had it installed. And as Barry said, we're quite happy to recommend West Country Drainage to anybody, because we know that they'll get a good job, a quality job, and they'll also get the backup if there were any problems.